Hey there, hey everyone. Welcome to my podcast, Godless Moral. This podcast was born from scientists free from religion. I have noticed that I was talking a lot about morality, and I thought it'd be a very good strategy to separate morality from religion. We can and you should talk about morality, secular morality, without appealing to religion. I believe it could be a very big trap whenever we talk about secular morality, we have to be on a religious context. So I have decided to create a podcast specifically to secular morality. It's not that I'm going to avoid religion. It's not that I'm going to avoid talking about religion. That would be another trap. But religion, on this podcast, godless and moral, morality will no longer be seen as a kind of comparison, a kind of secular morality will not be as a counterpoint. It will not be seen as the opposite of the religion morality. Religion has no authority. Religion has no monopoly on morality. So on this podcast, we are going to talk about secular morality. We are going to mention religion, to be fair, but religion will not be a kind of something that you have to overcome. Our focus is philosophy, empirical science. My main influence, I should say, are two big thinkers. Sam Harris with the moral landscape and Richard Carrier with this his approach of the game theory applied to objective morality. But I'm not going to stay trapped on on those two thinkers. I'm planning to also to bring others other perspectives such as I do have an episode about the AI, religion, and morality. So I hope you enjoy the podcast.
All right, let's jump right into this explainer. Think of this as your essential companion guide to a recent massive debate on AI and ethics. We're going to unpack an event where a huge, fascinating communication breakdown happened completely live on air. My goal today is to focus on building a crystal clear definition of a concept that somehow remained entirely hidden and implicit during that entire broadcast. So I'm going to use this explainer to support you so that when you go and watch the original debate afterwards, you'll finally have that crucial context that was missing. So picture this. For 2 full hours, expert speakers were fiercely debating the complex engineering of ethics, completely missing the fact that the audience was stuck at the absolute starting line with one fundamental question. But what do you actually mean by morality? The panel completely failed to define morality before the debate began. We could have nailed it down in minutes, but the experts mistakenly assumed everyone just inherently agreed upon what morality actually means. The source of this disconnect is honestly fascinating. Our guest speakers, Richard Carrier, Daniel Leeroy, and Jorge Pires, were incredibly busy discussing the advanced engineering of ethics. They were deep into the architecture of a concept called AI Moses. But they were essentially building a house without checking if the audience was even standing on the same foundation. They were operating on this highly technical assumption that just didn't translate at all to the viewers tuning in. Section 1. The audience definition void. A chat room in search of meaning. Now, what's really interesting about this disconnect is the absolute chaos it caused in the live chat during the broadcast. Comments rapidly fell into distinct categories, but primarily, it was just people desperately asking what the word morality means in this context. These viewers weren't asking for complex, multi-layered ethical theories. They were practically begging for a plain English definition to anchor the discussion so they could actually follow along. The sheer frustration of the audience really comes through here. Just listen to this quote pulled from the chat. "We seem to be talking about everything else but morality. It does not sound like anyone has defined it after 2 hours." You can practically hear the exasperation. The viewers felt they totally lacked the conceptual foundation needed to even process the ideas being thrown around. The chat basically devolved into a frantic search for the expert's starting point. Viewers were literally asking each other, wait, what was Richard Carrier's definition? It perfectly proves a vital lesson for any intellectual discussion. We absolutely cannot just assume we all share the same moral vocabulary. When you skip the definitions, you lose the room. And because of this massive definition void, the audience tried to fill in the blanks themselves. This revealed a deeply fragmented landscape of definitions floating around. You had some people arguing morality is pure empathy and predicting outcomes. Others pointed to complex philosophy, like Kantian ethics or objective natural rights. And then some boiled it all down to simple evolutionary group survival. Everyone was speaking a completely different language. Section 2. The hidden implicit definition. Unlocking the expert's perspective. So let's solve this mystery right now and unlock what the experts were actually thinking. This is the key you're going to want in your pocket when you watch the full debate later. For the speakers, morality wasn't a set of mystical, philosophical, or divine rules. To them, morality is goal engineering. It's a technical science of rational goal achievement based on what philosophers call hypothetical imperatives. Now, in simple terms, this just means if you want a specific outcome, like, say, a flourishing society, then you ought to follow certain empirically verifiable actions. It's essentially a science-based instruction manual. To build on that, speaker Daniel Leeroy reinforced this goal engineering framework by introducing what he called the axiomatic principle of cooperation. He pointed out that for a highly social species like humans, mutual aid is simply the most logical mathematical strategy to maximize well-being and avoid the valley of suffering. So it's not about cosmic right or wrong, it's just the most effective survival strategy for the group. This great disconnect ultimately boiled down to two completely different conversations happening at exactly the same time. On one hand, the experts were focused entirely on meta-ethics, treating morality as an engineering methodology, basically asking, how do we practically program this into a machine? But on the flip side, the audience was still having a foundational philosophical debate over normative ethics, asking, wait, what is our shared starting point? What are our values? The experts were busy coding the destination, while the audience was still arguing over the map. Section 3. Why the gap matters. The governance of AI Moses. Now, why does any of this matter? This isn't just some academic squabble or a funny quirk of a live stream. This definition gap is actually central to the future of AI governance. Think about how AI works right now. Modern systems like ChatGPT already operate on a logic chain to avoid things like committing crimes or copyright violations. Step 1, establish objectives. Step 2, formulate principles. Step 3, execute decisions. This means the actual technological architecture for an AI guided by moral principles already exists. The coding part isn't the roadblock anymore. And that brings us to the real core of the debate. The innovation of AI Moses is institutional, not technological. The real challenge we're facing today is one of governance. Currently, private companies are the ones secretly defining these principles and objectives behind closed doors. The AI Moses proposal suggests that these moral principles absolutely shouldn't come from a corporate boardroom. Instead, they should emerge from a transparent, democratic, and fully auditable process. Section 4. Aligning our global objectives. Closing the gap before firing the technological cannon. Think about the chat room we just analyzed. If a highly engaged audience of intelligent viewers can't even agree on a basic definition of morality after 2 solid hours, the institutional challenge of setting global objectives for collective AI is absolutely immense. Which brings us to this critical final question. Before we point the massive technological cannon of artificial intelligence in any direction, which peak of flourishing are we collectively aiming for? As you prepare to go watch the full debate with this new understanding of their implicit definition, ask yourself, how can we possibly align artificial intelligence if we haven't yet done the hard work of aligning on what it means to be moral ourselves? Keep that in mind and enjoy the debate.
Hey there, hey everyone. My name is Jorge Guerra Pires. I hold a PhD in bioinformatics, and I have been very interested in morality lately. I'm atheist. Have I mean I guess I was I heard that a lot of people say. I guess I was I always I always I have always been a, let's say atheist, but for a long time I used to call myself an agnostic, in same time atheist. Basically, I was not interested in religion, but after I got interested precisely in religion, I I saw that I was, after all, atheist. Everything that I knew about atheism was, to some extent, a straw man. It was a wrong version, it was a wrong version of or what people mean by atheism. Uh, so basically, I this podcast is about morality without God, and I have noticed that I used to spend a huge amount of time on my podcast, scientist free from religion, about morality, and because people, I think they mistake a little bit. There is a difference between you show by logic that the religion, by religion I mean Christianity, the Christian moral, they're horrible. I mean, they make no sense. That's not difficult to do. For example, you can point out in a debate, if you are debating a Christian and they say that without God you have no moral, that you need a objective morality. They love to do it in debates. You can always ask them, how come your morality is so how come your morality is so objective, and there are more than I mean that estimation, to be fair, that's not the estimation that everyone agree, but some people say about 3,000, some people say 40,000, different denomination of Christianity. It doesn't matter whether this number is correct or not, but even if you say that suppose in a hypothetical world that you had about let's say 110 variation of Christianity, that per se it would be enough to show that morality in Christianity is not objective. Because if you cannot decide what God is saying, they say our morality is objective because you received from a higher power called God. But if you receive a morality from God and you cannot agree whatever God is saying, that's a problem. That's a huge problem. How come your morality is changed over time? Before, Christian were they were very friendly with slavery. The Bible is full of let's say how to treat your slave. The Bible never say that you should not have slaves. They basically say how to treat your slave. For me, that's a consensus. That's a consensus. You are basically say that your God is okay with slavery. So it's not hard to show that the Christian morality, it's not hard to show that the Christian morality is problematic. But the problem is when you try to build something on top of that. So if the if the let's say the theist, the Christianity, it goes as well for all the Abrahamic religion. If their morality is problematic, how come, what could replace this so-called the objective morality? Uh, that's what we do. That's what they do. I'm not a philosopher, so I'm not say I do, because I'm not a philosopher by background. I'm a bioinformatician. I used to work during my life with applied mathematics. So, uh, so if you don't want a God to tell us what to do, how can you find what's right, what's wrong? To be fair, to have a God as a base for morality has never been a good idea. People, Christian, they tend to claim that they tend to claim that somehow that they have a higher power, which is called God. A book is called the Bible that tells them what's right, what's wrong. They like to say that our justice system is based on Christianity. Those examples are horrible because if you look at the history is a disaster. It's slavery, killing of people, the justice system of United States. I had on my podcast, scientist from religion, Daniel Leeroy. Leroy was as well on this discussion that we are going to share here. I'm preparing you. I'm doing a preparation for the debate, for you to understand what was. I'm going to post precise the debate, but I'm going to prepare you for the debate. I'm going to share with you some of the, let's say, or the hidden, some of the hidden say ideas that was not very clear in the debate. Uh, uh, Leroy, I'm going as well to post in the future my debate with Leroy, my conversation with Leroy on my podcast, Scientists for Free from Religion. Uh, it's important to keep in mind that I'm going to as well to have another debate, another discussion with Leroy, but this time I'm going to also have Daniel, Mateus Benítez, which he's also Brazilian, but we are going to do in English because Leroy is a English speaker. We're going to use his language to speak about this. But Leroy gave a very nice example. Um, the failure of the prisoner system in the United States. He gave the example of a European country in which the probability of someone going back to jail after they have been in jail is extremely high in United States. It's extremely high in United States. So if you want to say that your morality is based on God and that our justice system is inspired on God, you should always explain how come the prisoner, the prisoner system in the United States, which they claim that they are a Christian nation, they claim that they follow God and so on. How come their system is sucking so much? I mean, they say that their God is just. They claim that they have a kind of divine, let's say, divine revelation, so on. So as Daniel Leroy put it very well, if a God, let's say, if a company, if a startup, if a business has this high rate of failure, it will be already out of business. How come we accept as a society, especially a society that's claimed that they are a nation of God, like United States? How come they can accept so much failure on their system? So it's let's say it's not difficult to show that the so-called religion, Christianity, morality is a disaster. So I should go to the point. So uh, what I want to show you here during the debate with Rich Carey in the Daniel Leroy, we were debating, and I'm going to post by part, as I said before. We were debating whether AI, artificial intelligence, can be a, let's say, can be a system to find moral law, let's say moral a moral system. For you to understand what was going on during the debate, Richard Carey, on his paper, I had an interview with Richard Carey. I have already posted this interview, so you already have this interview. During the interview that I did with Richard Carey, uh, he was explaining how his moral system work. He published this system in a book called the I think it's Sense and Goodness Without God. I have to check the title of the book, but the book is precise about morality without God. But later, about 10 years, I think it was 10 years after the book, he published a paper. It was in 2020. 2025. It was about 1 year ago. He published a peer-reviewed paper in a journal called Religions. This journal is well known to publish papers about religion. I have already seen this paper around. I have some critique on this journal. Sorry, not the paper, but on the journal called Religions. But the point is, Carroll was defending that we can find objective morality in all possible universe. He he's not just claimed that the objective morality exists here and now. He's claimed that the objective morality exists in all possible universe. So that's not a small claim if you come to that. But how he justified that? He used a concept. It's called the ideal agent. The question is, uh, if you want to act in the most moral possible way, let's put it this way, let's put it in this language, you want to decide what's the best decision to take. So Kerr argued that you should ask yourself what an ideal agent would do. What an ideal agent? An ideal agent is an agent that he is rational, fully informed. He knows all the information, and he's not biased or reason fallaciously, as Carroll put himself as Carroll put it himself on the interview that I did on my channel, on my podcast, Scientists from Religion. See that this interview is already available. If you are following this podcast, you already have access to this interview. So what I'm going to post in the upcoming days, on the upcoming episode, are part of a second conversation. The second conversation was organized by Daniel Leeroy on his channel Objective Ethics. So what I was trying to defend for you guys for you all to understand was about 2 hours, so you should understand what was going on the debate. I was defending that the AI, artificial intelligence, is this ideal agent. Why? AI is fully informed. I don't think that any human can be more informed than an AI. I don't believe that any human can be more rational than an AI. You can go into detail what do you mean by rationality. I mean, what do you mean by rationality? Is of course I'm not claiming that AI can think now. And the second part is the goal. For the let's say the ideal agent on the model of Richard Carroll, it needs a goal. You need to give it a goal. The system of Richard Carroll is a goal-oriented moral system. For the system to work, you need to have a goal. As he says on his paper, on his book, on his interview, is on my channel. Once you have a goal for an agent, the agent start to have what's called a hypothetical imperative, which is let's say a replacement for the categorical imperative for Immanuel Kant. So, but Carey built his work on the work of Philippa Foot. I have already published uh, more than 1 hour on the book of Philippa Foot, which is someone that Carey cites a lot. I wanted to investigate who was Philippa Foot, what Philippa Foot did. Foot was very revolutionary on her time because she proposed that first, we do not need God to decide what's moral. She proposed that morality is as natural as any science. So basically, what Philippa Foot did in morality is similar to what Charles Darwin did on biology. Darwin did on biology. He proposed that we can understand nature, we can understand life without appealing to God. Foot did the same, basically. So what Carey did was to extend on the work of Philippa Foot. So that was what was defended during the debate. So you can follow the debate, you can see what's going on in the debate. Uh, uh, but there is one thing that I have already I'm going to post. I have already asked AI to I asked the help of AI to organize what was going on during the debate. But uh, the question that we didn't we didn't answer very well the debate was what do you mean by morality? What do you mean by morality? During the conversation on the chatbot, it was clear that people could not decide very well what what do you mean by morality. It was not very clear. For Richard Carrer, and I guess was the same for Daniel Leroy. Leroy, I don't know. I was a little bit confused because I have already talked with Leroy before in another time, in another live, in another podcast episode, and the I had a feeling that Leroy has a definition of morality which is very close from Immanuel Kant, which that is, Leroy seems to see morality, which was very clear during our last debate, but Leroy seems to view morality as a contract. I think I even brought to his attention that the mode of care needs to have a goal. It's a goal-oriented moral system that you need to have a goal. You need to be a rational agent. You need to be fully informed, not to reason fallaciously, and you need to have a goal for his model to work, which is different from Immanuel Kant. For Immanuel Kant, as far as I tried to do research, but Immanuel Kant didn't have the goal. I think the goal Carey took from Philippa Foot. Foot used to give the example of a tree. If a tree has a root that is very weak, you cannot say that the tree just have a weak root. That's fine. That's not fine. If you have a tree and the tree has a weak root, the tree is not achieve its function. The function of a tree is to stand. A tree cannot produce, for example, fruit. A tree cannot be alive if a tree cannot hold its own weight. Of course, you may find example like tree that makes some adaptation in Brazil. We have several types of tree that they developed adaptation. They have very weak because the land is very weak, so they can't hold on the land. So they developed very very bizarre truck, very bizarre, let's say, shapes, so they could, let's say, but they always have to answer to the laws of nature. A tree that does not have a strong root, they need to adapt. So that's precise what Richard Carey is saying in his model. The model of Carey, which we use during the debate, is a goal-oriented model. So, what is morality? To answer directly, morality, or basically say, moral actions, moral fact, they are actions that achieve a goal in the best way possible. That's what morality is on the model of Richard Carey. So for Richard Carey, you should always ask what an ideal agent would do. So he used the idea of a hypothetical imperative. So you should ask yourself, uh, uh, what is the highest command, or the highest action that you can do to achieve a goal in the best way possible. So you should be a rational agent. You should be well informed, not to think fallaciously, and you should have a goal. So for you to have a moral objective, so that comes a very tricky part on the model of Richard Carrier, because uh, the moral fact, they are objective, but the objective can be subjective. You can decide to certain extent what are your objective, but once you define your moral fact become objective. For example, if you wanna the example that Carrie like to give, that if you are a medical doctor and you want to save the patient, you ought to sterilize, you ought to clean the equipment that you are going to use in the surgery. So that's basically the work of Philippa Foot. Once you define the goal of something, you have let's say, objective facts about this system. Objective fact. So that's all, guys. I just wanted to make you a little bit more well informed about what will go on from on this, because I think I have already published several episodes that explain that, but using AI, artificial intelligence. But I want to make sure that you understand what we mean by morality. Morality, in our definition, need to have a goal. They are actions. They are action that you take, or even principles, if you can call it, that fulfill a goal. Uh, I think that's all for now. So hope you enjoy the show.